Hello there, world of tankers. Welcome back to my videos. Today we are going to be talking about my top 3 favorite tier 10s in the game. As you can see, we are going to be starting off with the Foch. Sorry I haven't uploaded videos in a while. I have been taking a break from the game. Just a lot has happened in my life. I am back now though, and I will continue posting videos daily or at least a couple a week, so that should be good. Now, my third vehicle is going to be the Foch. This is because of its ridiculous mobility, ramming abilities, and just how well it performs in a battle. And you'll be able to see here on how well it does. The frontal armor on this vehicle is very thick, at being around 300 to 280 millimeters at the front at some spots. Now, it does have that rangefinder on the top and the cupola, but it's really not that much of a threat when you're either sitting at the back of the map, because that's very hard to hit, or when you're rushing vehicles, because they'll have a very hard time penning you. Now, your side armor is not super spectacular. It's only about 90 thick, but it is thick enough that people can't high explosive it that easily anymore. That doesn't mean you're impervious to high explosive, though, because most tank destroyers can still pen your side with relative ease. Now, this tank does have the standard tier 10 tank destroyer gun. Unfortunately, it's not an autoloader like the rest of the French. This has pretty much an Object 268 gun, just a bit dumbed down. It's a bit worse at aiming and a bit worse at reloading. Now, you may be wondering why my reload, it says, is 14.5 seconds. That is because I have calibrated shells on instead of gun rammer, so really it should be about 13.5 seconds to 13. So that is one thing I will say. It has fairly good penetration, around 290 with calibrated, and its heat is over 300, so you don't need to worry about penetrating tanks at all with this gun. Now, one issue with the gun is that its gun arc is very little. As you can see, only about 5 or 4 degrees each way. So when there are quick tanks aiming at you, the aiming circle will bloom very large, and you will have a hard time hitting mobile tanks. Now, on the upside, this tank can be very aggressive. As you can see, I'm pushing it in. So you can actually push at the mediums, and they'll have a very hard time penning you with their low penetration guns, and you will be able to pen them very easily, sometimes with high explosive, just completely murdering them. As you can see, that game was only 2 minutes and 50 seconds, and I managed to pull out 4.6 thousand damage. It doesn't do very bad at credits. I don't even have premium on, and I still gained 4,000 credits. You can see how well it does. That was 7 shots fired, all 7 hit. I will say, though, don't run this vehicle into the battle like I do sometimes, because it requires a lot of skill and looking around the map at all times and knowing what you're going to be doing before you do it to actually be able to pull off something like this. I have multiple games in this tank where I die immediately because I'm too aggressive, so I wouldn't suggest to push this tank out into the battlefield immediately. Now, once you do get used to it, you can start to push more aggressive. I wouldn't really suggest camping in this vehicle just because of how good its armor is, and its gun isn't super effective at long distances. So that is what I'll say about this vehicle, but now we'll head into the number 2 spot. Now, my spot for number 2 is going to be the E100, the Big Bertha of tanks. It is this monster and Goliath gun matched with this great armor and decent mobility. I really think this is probably my favorite tier 10 heavy tank in the game, but it definitely performs the best just because of that big gun. They say bigger is better, and I agree with that just because of this tank. The VK72, which is very similar, is a very good tank, and I do like it because of the big gun. It's just that its side armor is not good enough for me. It really fails when getting hit by tank destroyers at the sides, and people can just load heat rounds and penetrate through your front. This vehicle, the original, just has all the things going for it. As you can see, my first shell whiffs into that Jagdpanzer. I don't even know how that one penetrated him, but it still managed to take 723 hit points away. And I've already blocked my first shell, and you'll see I block a lot more shells to come in this game. Now, this vehicle can be a bit boring at some times, and you might not be in the mood to run it always, but this vehicle at the same time has all these characteristics going for it that you can really carry a game. Now again, like I said for the Foch, I wouldn't rush this vehicle in really aggressively thinking that you're God and you can't die. When you see people on these YouTube videos, these games are 1 out of 100 games, especially for a good player. So if you're an average player and you're seeing me or any YouTuber like Bushka pulling out these replays where they just completely decimate the line, bounce all these shots, don't think that that's reality. The average way will work in a normal game is you'll push up there right into the middle of the battle and you'll have 5 heavy tanks target you and you're dead. Done. So really what you want to do in this vehicle is sort of stay in front of your heavy tanks, but you don't want to push. And I will say, when you push in this vehicle, everybody else will most of the time follow you. Since you are the big heavy tank on the team, other than a mouse, when you push on a heavy tank, if you have a teammate behind you or something, they will most likely push with you to go help you kill that guy because they know you're going to be the one taking the hits. Like this, I'm going to sacrifice my hit points to help my friend here trying to kill this bat chat just because I don't want him to die. Now, unfortunately, the bat chat gets to reload before I can put in the shell, but my friend still made a valiant effort there holding off the enemy line. And now you can see it is a 3 versus 4, and my team does not get much better as it is already. You will see how accurate this gun is, as I haven't really missed one shell. I took a blind shot there, and you did see it fall behind on the dirt, so that did not penetrate. But it will become a much tougher game very soon, as now it is a 2 versus 4, and my mouse is just not doing anything correctly. He pushed way too far, and that's a great example of what I said. He pushed that mouse way too far out into the enemy field. He's pretty much in their spawn, and because of that, he's being flanked by all of their vehicles and just being taken out immediately. He really should not have done that. As you can see, I'm staying back, and another beautiful shot whiffs right into the rear of that IS-4, and he doesn't even know what to do. Now they're pretty much all one-shots, and I can just load high explosive on everybody but that IS-4. And the IS-4 is my biggest priority as of right now, as well as the 57 Heavy, because if the Heavy gets behind me, he can clip me out, and that will not be good. That 54 is shooting high explosive at me, I don't know why. Don't shoot high explosive at an E100. That's probably the most useless thing you can possibly do. Now, another great thing about this tank is since it has this huge caliber gun, since there's vehicles like this 57 Heavy, I don't even need to try and penetrate them because I know I can just load high explosive and hit them right in the side and they're dead. It'll do an average of, 300, 400 damage. Easy. This E100, high explosive, dead. Now, I will be careful with that E100 just because I know its side armor is so tough, I'm not going to try and risk it on a high explosive. You can see though, I just shoot a high explosive right at the lower plate of that 54, hit him in the track, and I still take 300 off him, and he can't even do anything. And again, those huge tracks absorbing that IS-4 shell as he really screws that one up. I'm now going to back up into cover. This 54 is still shooting high explosive. I really don't know why on that part, but he's not going to change the game that much. I still have 1900 hit points. IS-4 makes a bold move, which he's going to regret. Finish him off, and now it's pretty easy win for me as they're both one-shots and I have enough health to take a shot from both of them over. I can take 2 E100 shells and still kill that guy, and this 54 gets stuck on the dead body, and you can see now how well this vehicle can actually do at carrying a team. I have 5 kills and I'm about to rack up 6, and really this shouldn't have happened. If I was in any other vehicle, I probably would have been murdered. Now, I did think at the end of this game I was going to get a draw, but the smart thing I did here was he went that way going up there, so I pretended before I got undetected that I was going to try and go that way down the hill, and then as soon as he went undetected I backed up and I went over to this little cliff here and was thinking that he was going to do exactly what he did, and this is outsmarting the enemy. So even if you're in a slow tank, you can try and outsmart the enemy like this and it'll work. And you can see I didn't shoot a high explosive at this guy just because I didn't want to take the risk of it blowing up on his track and not penning and me dying. So this was one of the best games I've played in the 100 in a while. I did get the mastery, I got the Colabanos, the Pools medal. I pretty much got every big medal you want, all in this one game, just because this tank was able to hold off a 1 versus 4. So you can see this vehicle is so good and strong. But the number 1 spot is coming up, and wait until you see what that tank is. Now, the number 1 spot vehicle for me is the FV4202. Now, this may come to a surprise of most of you, or pretty much all, and you may disagree, but this vehicle to me is just way too overpowered at the moment, just because of that Hesh gun. And it's not really overpowered unless you're a good player like me, or you're in one of the high clans, you know what you're doing. Because this tank has so much gun depression, and its gun has so much damage it can output, with almost 4,000 damage per minute when using Hesh. You can really just kill everything. You can see my first shell does almost 500 damage, and I pen the side of that K91 pretty easily with Hesh. This vehicle gets around 230 penetration with Hesh, and it's pretty much enough to pen any vehicle that's quite mobile. Even that E100 there, if I get to the side of him, I can still penetrate him with Hesh. I almost had a shot there, and he really got a lucky one, whiffing that shell into my turret. The weak spot on this vehicle is the turret. It is a pretty big weak spot, about only being 200 to 180 thick. But the lower plate and the hull of this vehicle is actually very tough in the front, being about 280. So you can actually bounce a lot of shells with the front of this vehicle. So if you are a player and you have a tough time taking this tank out, do not try and penetrate the lower plate or upper plate of this vehicle, because it's just a waste of time. It has a lot of armor, and your shells will most likely ricochet off. The best bet you have is shooting at its turret or its side. Now you can see again this Hesh just working all these tanks. 1500 damage, and then you shoot him again and you do another 400. The average damage of this Hesh is 440, and with a 6.9 second reload, it just racks up so much damage. I fired 4 shells in the last 20 seconds and I'm already at 2,300 damage, and you can just keep racking up the damage. Now, I didn't want to pull out on the C100 too long because I know they have a grill back there camping, which I just shot at, and I didn't want to get hit by that E100. Because that could jeopardize the game, and you can see they have 3 mediums over in the corner, just pretty much wrecking our team. So I had to be very careful. Now, I don't know why that grill keeps popping out. As you can see, though, 522 damage. That is just insane how much this tank can output in one shell. You can get behind a bat chat and kill it in 4 shells, and it'll take his entire clip, and you'll kill him before he even unloads the clip, bouncing some of his shells too. You'll see this E50 thinking that he has more hit points than me, pushing on me. All these tanks pushing on me, thinking they can kill me, and then they bounce on this really good armor. I've already bounced 950 damage, and that's just the beginning. You'll see how much damage this vehicle can actually bounce. And this Hesh really just can take out any medium tank that goes against you. Now, you will get some funky shots with Hesh, where this one clearly looks like it'll penetrate, but then for some reason it doesn't, only doing 95. That was probably a wargaming error. But again, you can see this armor working really well, as I've bounced 1400 damage now. You know, now I've bounced 1700. You just pretty much bounce anything that you go against, and it works so well. Now, this E50 only has 400 and just took 400 off him. Like, you can see in this game that this tank is kind of dominating the entire battle. If I wasn't here, we most definitely would have lost this, because that grill would have been at full health. All those mediums would have been at full health. This grill didn't think I was probably going to push, and I did, just because that E50 was behind me, and I didn't want to take the risk of being hit by him. And now I can use that amazing 10 degrees gun depression and pop the final shell on him. Finishing this game with 5,400 damage, getting the mastery, 1700 blocked. I blocked enough damage to pretty much kill me over. I did get the Steel Wall Award. It's just such a good vehicle. I received 11 hits and 5 of them bounced. That's half of the shells I received I bounced in this game. And it's just such a good vehicle overall. I will say Hesh is 4,000 a pop, and when you have 24 of them like me, that's 96,000 credits down the drain if you were to shoot them all. So do be very conscious. Now I will say ahead of time, if you're not a super skilled player, this is not the vehicle for you. It has a Hesh gun, but that Hesh is only effective if you are effective with it. If you have a hard time penetrating tanks with high explosive, and if you don't even know what high explosive is, then it's a real problem. Now, I do know Martin Dogger made a video on high explosive, so if you don't know how to use high explosive or know what it is, you can go check out his channel, and he will have a video on that for you. Thanks for watching my video, and I will see you soon.